We often hear finance described with big words like rules, markets, and institutions. But in our day-to-day lives, it feels less like a textbook and more like a quiet background force. Most of us don't think in terms of banking or investing. We think in moments. Paying the rent, filling up the gas tank, wondering if now is the right time to replace that phone with the cracked screen. The scope of finance is huge, but it sneaks into our lives, shaping our choices long before we even put a name to it. From the outside, finance looks technical and complicated, but from the inside, it's deeply personal. It touches our work, our families, our health, our time, and even our identity. That's why we can't separate our money decisions from our emotions. A paycheck isn't just income. It's a feeling of reassurance. A bill isn't just a number. It's a source of pressure. And savings aren't just delayed spending. They represent a sense of control in a world that often feels unpredictable. How we behave with money starts with how we see the world. How stable does life feel right now? How predictable does the future seem? When we feel secure, we start thinking in the long term. We make plans. We commit. But when stability feels shaky, our focus shifts to the present. We protect what we have, right here, right now. This change isn't about how much we know about finance. It's about our environment. Our financial decisions react to how safe we feel, not how smart we are. There are also systems we never see directly that have a huge impact. The timing of our paychecks affects our stress levels. Credit systems can influence our confidence or our sense of shame. Insurance changes how risky it feels just to go about our day. Even if we don't understand these systems, we feel their effects. And those feelings guide our actions more than any spreadsheet ever could. Money decisions are also shaped by social comparison. We quietly watch each other. We notice who seems comfortable, who looks stretched thin, who appears to be getting ahead. These comparisons are rarely accurate, but they are incredibly powerful. They influence what we spend, how much we save, and even ourselves. In this way, finance becomes a social experience. There's a moral layer, too. Many of us connect money with responsibility and character. Doing well financially is often seen as proof of hard work. Struggling, on the other hand, can feel like a personal failure, even when much larger forces are at play. This belief makes it hard to talk about money honestly. Stress becomes a private burden. Ultimately, the scope of finance goes far beyond transactions. It influences career choices, where we live, when we start families, and how we age. It shapes our patience, our tolerance for risk, and our sense of hope. Understanding finance means realizing that money isn't just something we manage. It's something we constantly respond to. It presses on our attention, our emotions, and our behavior every single day. Ever wonder why making decisions about money feels so personal and, honestly, so stressful? It's because finance isn't just about numbers. It's about how we see the world and our place in it. Think about it. In theory, having money means having options. But in reality, our financial situation often draws the lines around what we think is possible. When we feel financially secure, we see more choices than we might even have. We're more open to trying new things, changing careers, or taking small, calculated risks. But when money is tight, our world shrinks. We stop chasing opportunities and start playing defense, just trying to avoid making a mistake. This isn't about being an optimist or a pessimist. It's about how much room we feel we have to maneuver. This feeling dictates whether a big life decision, like switching jobs or moving to a new city, feels like an exciting adventure or a terrifying gamble. The availability of credit, job security, healthcare, costs all. These things shape whether we feel free or trapped. We react to this pressure without even thinking about it. We might put off big decisions, settle for less, or make impulsive choices out of fear. And what about trade-offs? Every financial choice involves giving something up. Spending now means not saving for later. Working more hours means less time for family and friends. When we're stressed about money, our brains are wired to prioritize immediate relief over long-term gains. It's a survival instinct, not a character flaw. Our jobs are another piece of this puzzle. They're not just about income. They're a huge part of our identity. When financial instability makes it hard to switch jobs, we can feel stuck. Leaving a job that doesn't fit becomes more than just a financial risk. It feels like we're re-risking a part of who we are. Ultimately, we're all trying to balance the need for security with the desire for freedom. Security loves consistency, while freedom thrives on change, our life stage, our income, and what's happening in the world around us constantly shift this balance, which explains why our financial choices can sometimes seem contradictory. We're not being irrational. We're just navigating competing needs. Over time, these financial pressures build habits. We learn what feels safe and what causes stress, and these lessons become our default settings. A temporary coping mechanism can turn into a permanent mindset. That's why financial behavior is so deeply personal and so incredibly diverse. We aren't just managing money, we are managing our sense of what's possible. Have you ever felt like you're constantly playing catch-up with money? It's not just about paying the bills, it's this deeper pressure, right? This feeling that you should be somewhere else by now, that you should have achieved more, that you should feel more stable. These aren't numbers on a spreadsheet. They're stories we tell ourselves, absorbed from our families, the media, and just looking around at others. When our real life doesn't quite match up with those stories of success, it creates this invisible tension. It shows up as stress, guilt, or this quiet, nagging frustration. We start to think we're always one step behind, or that we constantly have to prove we're doing okay, even to ourselves. Suddenly, money isn't just about survival anymore. It's tied directly to our self-worth. And timing makes it all so much harder. The financial world moves at its own slow pace, but our lives, they happen right now. Rent is due now. Your kid needs new shoes now. A medical bill shows up without asking. This mismatch between our urgent needs and the slow-moving systems we rely on just piles on the stress. We don't become impulsive with money because we want to. We do it because waiting feels like it costs even more. This pressure also forces us to put our dreams on hold. That course you wanted to take, that trip you wanted to plan, that business idea you had, they get pushed back. Not because you lost ambition, but because ambition feels too risky when you don't have a safety net. Over time, these postponed dreams can start to change who we are. It even affects our relationships. We avoid talking about money to keep the peace, but silence doesn't make the pressure disappear. It just forces us to carry it alone, thinking everyone else has it all figured out. But that's rarely the full picture. This constant state of alert, worrying about unpredictable costs or unstable income, is mentally exhausting. It drains the energy we could be using for creativity, for our relationships, for planning a better future. Financial pressure isn't just about not having enough money. It's about the heavy cognitive load it places on our minds. That's why this feeling is so common, no matter how much someone earns. It's about how predictable your life feels, how you measure up to expectations, and how much room you feel you have to make a mistake and recover. Finance isn't just a system we use. It's a force that shapes our emotional weather, influencing almost every decision we make, whether we realize it or not. Ever wondered why we take financial struggles so personally? It's because finance isn't just about numbers. It shapes our very idea of responsibility, especially in cultures that value independence. Needing financial help can feel like a personal failure, even when support systems are there for us. This mindset doesn't just pop up overnight. It's built through years of experience with money. We learn early on that mistakes can be expensive and recovery is slow. So we develop this intense desire to avoid any misstep. Responsibility becomes less about growing and more about just not falling behind. We all have this internal rule book for what we think we should be able to handle on our own rent. There's unexpected emergencies. When life throws a curveball and we can't meet those standards, our first reaction is often shame. We ask, what did I do wrong? Instead of, what external factors led to this? This way of thinking makes us hesitant. We might avoid asking for a raise or exploring better options because it feels like admitting we're not in control. We stick with what's familiar, even if it's not the best choice, because it feels safer than showing vulnerability. This also affects how much we trust the systems around us. If we feel like the systems banks, government aid, insurance are unreliable, we tend to take on the entire burden ourselves. We start planning for the absolute worst-case scenario. It might look like impressive discipline from the outside, but it often stems from a deep-seated expectation of being let down. Over time, this erodes our confidence in getting help from anyone. We become incredibly resilient and skilled at coping alone, but also more isolated. A financial setback can feel like a minor bump in the road or a life-defining disaster, all depending on our past experiences. If we've bounced back before, we're more optimistic. But if recovery was a painful, difficult process, that fear sticks with us and dictates our future choices. And because most people keep their financial struggles private, we're surrounded by the illusion that everyone else has it all figured out. This makes us raise our own expectations to an unrealistic level, taking on even more responsibility. So, while we might look like careful planners on the surface, underneath we can be anxious and constantly on edge. Finance doesn't just manage our money, it manages our emotional load. Understanding this helps explain why people often refuse help. It's not just pride. It's a learned self-reliance forged from past experiences where they felt they had to carry everything alone. What if I told you finance isn't really about getting rich? It's about something much deeper. How we make peace with uncertainty. It doesn't get rid of uncertainty, but it teaches us how much we can handle. Think about it. Over our lives, we don't just learn how to earn and spend. We learn how much instability feels survivable, and that lesson shapes almost every major decision we make. Some of us grow up where things feel stable. Bills get paid. Setbacks are manageable, and there's a safety net. For these people, uncertainty feels like a temporary problem with a solution. This mindset encourages them to engage with the future, to see possibilities. But others learn a different lesson. They see how a small disruption can spiral into a disaster. They learn that help might not come, and that recovery demands huge sacrifices. These experiences stick with us. They change how we see risk and how tightly we cling to what we have. This is why two people can look at the same opportunity, and one sees a chance to grow, while the other sees a dangerous exposure. Our financial behavior is really just an attempt to stay emotionally balanced. We're not always trying to maximize our wealth. Often, we're just trying to avoid regret, shame, and fear. Money becomes a tool for emotional regulation. This is why we crave predictability so much: a regular paycheck, stable expenses. It lets us breathe, even if things aren't perfect. When that predictability vanishes, our brains treat it as a threat, no matter what the bank account says. This is the part that's often missed. These financial behaviors, these emotional responses, they last. Even when our situation gets better, someone who's lived through instability might stay cautious forever. Their behavior lags behind their new reality because our emotions lag behind information. So, when we talk about finance, we're not just talking about allocating money. We're talking about adaptation. We adapt to the world we live in. We adjust our expectations, and we often choose peace of mind over pure optimization. Financial decisions are never just about the numbers. They are expressions of our personal history, our memories, and what we've learned makes us feel safe. Ultimately, finance doesn't just determine what we can afford to do. It shapes what we believe is safe to even want. And that belief quietly draws the map for the life we allow ourselves to imagine. Thanks for watching.